Hello and welcome to English with SWS. Today we are going to look at a rather complicated and complex story. Let me say this right at the outset. ये आसान chapter नहीं है. This is called The Adventure, written by Jayant Narlikar, which I will explain. And I'm going to do something which I normally don't do. I'm going to first explain the summary to you. And that's because मुझे खुद, it took me 3 days to understand this story, to prepare the notes, to prepare the question and answers, reading up a lot of material on the author Jayant Narlikar, who is from Maharashtra, lives in Pune, Padma Bhushan awardee, and also to read a lot about the Battle of Panipat. In fact, a movie bhi bani hai called Panipat, which was of course a flop, starring Arjun Kapoor and Sanjay Dutt. So I had to read a lot on it in order to be able to understand, because baad mein jab aap doubts puche, I should be in a position to explain each and every aspect of this particular story. So we will go slow. I'm going to do a summary video first, and then I will do the entire chapter also in 3 to 4 parts, so that we go slow and you're able to understand, because as I said, thoda complex chapter hai. Let's get started. Now, he's Jayant Narlikar, lives in Pune, a well-known astrophysicist. He developed the conformal gravity theory. He was awarded the Padma Bhushan, and he's written lots of stories also, which kind of mix science fiction with everyday life. Okay, so trying to demystify science fiction is what Jayant Narlikar has done. And I remember he used to do programs on Doordarshan also at one point in time during our growing up years. Now, what is this story about? The adventure. Now, see, what has happened is that the CBSE, or rather the NCERT, has taken a part of the story. पूरी story है, और अगर आप पूरी story पढ़ें तो आपको समझने में आसानी होगी. लेकिन चूंकि उन्होंने कम story ली है, they have taken a part of the story, the second half of the story, it becomes a little complicated to understand. So what I managed to do was to get a copy of the full story, which I believe is somewhere there on NCERT as well. I got it from another source, from a blog site. And when you read that story, you understand the whole sequence of events that much better. Okay. Now, this story, let me just move the table a little closer. This story is a marriage of history and science fiction, because the protagonist of this particular story, okay, ये summary आपके लिए बहुत जरूरी है, तो summary को जरा ध्यान से सुनिए. The protagonist of the story, Professor Gangadhar Pant Gaitonde, is a history professor. Okay. If you read the entire story, it has a date also, 19th of July 1986, when this particular professor meets with an accident. So you can, it has been placed somewhere in the mid 80s. Now, this Professor Gaitonde has given as many as 999 lectures. Okay. He's on his way to deliver his 1000th lecture in Mumbai, apparently, when an accident occurs. His car collides with a truck. The topic of his talk at the Azad Maidan in Mumbai, or Bombay as it was called then, was the implications of the catastrophe theory on the Battle of Panipat, the third Battle of Panipat. दो चीजें ये catastrophe theory मैं थोड़ा बाद में समझाऊंगा आपको. Battle of Panipat, there were 3 battles of Panipat which were fought. First one involving Babur, second one involving Akbar, and the third one involving the Marathas and the Afghans. That is what is included in this particular story. Okay. Now, the historical fact, let's understand. As I said, काफी history पर भी research करनी पड़ी. The third battle of Panipat was fought in January 1761 between the Marathas and the Afghans, led by Ahmad Shah Abdali. Ahmad Shah Durrani भी बोलते हैं उनको. The Marathas lost the battle. इस बात को ध्यान में रखिए, because this is an important aspect of this particular story, the adventure. Now, what happens is that in reality, as I said, the Afghans had won and the Marathas were defeated, and it subsequently led to the strengthening of the Britishers in India. Okay. And in reality, in the Battle of Panipat, Vishwas Rao, who was the leader of the Maratha army, he was the heir to the Peshwas, he died in the battle. But in Gangadhar Pant's imaginary world, listen to this carefully, but in Gangadhar Pant's imaginary world, the Marathas won the third battle of Panipat. जो उनके दिमाग में सोच में आया, उसमें Vishwas Rao and the Marathas had won the battle of Panipat, and Vishwas Rao को गोली नहीं लगी थी. Whereas in reality, the Marathas had lost the battle. Okay, this aspect is clear. Now, what has happened is that he wants to get several doubts cleared. Okay, he in his dream or when he is in coma because of the accident, he imagines a train journey going to Bombay. Okay, he's in coma for about 2 days kind of thing. There he visits the Asiatic Society library at the town hall, and he finds a different version of the Battle of Panipat in which the Marathas had won. Okay, he imagines also his own lecture at Azad Maidan where he gets assaulted. Okay, लेकिन उससे पहले he picks up a book. Okay, he picks up a book from the town hall library. Bausab Banchi Bakar. This book is the historical narrative of the third battle of Panipat written in Marathi. उसमें से एक कॉपी लेते हैं और वो कॉपी अपने जेब में डाल के निकल जाते हैं by mistake. Okay, see what is happening. Let me just try to simplify it. He's thinking of a particular lecture to be given. Okay, और आपको मैं पूरी स्टोरी के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में समझाता हूं. His 999th lecture, अगर आप पूरी स्टोरी पढ़ेंगे, ये आपके इस चैप्टर में नहीं है. His 999th lecture was on the catastrophe theory. Okay, catastrophe theory क्या है? That a small difference that can be made is made. It ends up making a bigger difference in the overall structure. His 1000th lecture, he decides that he will apply the catastrophe theory to the Battle of Panipat. Matlab that instead of the death of Vishwas Rao and thereby the defeat of the Marathas, अगर होता ये कि अफगान्स हार जाते और मराठा जीत जाते, तब इंडिया का इतिहास किस तरह से बदलता? How would the history of India have changed in case the Marathas had won and the Afghans were defeated? So that is what he's thinking, the catastrophe theory, applying the catastrophe theory to the Battle of Panipat for his 1000th lecture. समझ में आ गया? Now, he's thinking at that point in time about applying this catastrophe theory, and he's already prepared some notes when the accident happens. So when he goes into coma for about 2 odd days, he's thinking about it, and therefore the entire thought process is because of that catastrophe theory. I hope I have made myself a little more clear. Okay. Now, uske baad, he goes to the library, he finds his Bakar in which a different version of history has been given. Why? Because he's also thinking of the same. He imagines the book to be containing that version of history, which is not true. That is the victory of Marathas, because in his real mind, he's actually preparing for that. So that enters into his subconscious or unconscious mind where he's in a coma after the accident with the truck. So after he regains consciousness, okay, he regains consciousness because of some events that we will discuss in the story. He comes and meets his friend called Rajendra Deshpande, who is a physicist, who is aware of who in fact had given the idea for his 999th lecture also. अगर आप पूरी story पढ़े तो आपको पता चलेगा. And he reasons it out by 2 ways. कि पहला catastrophe theory जो मैंने आपको समझाया, ये हुआ है. दूसरा हुआ है determination of the quantum theory. Okay, determination of the quantum theory. So catastrophe theory to maine aapko samjha di. Okay, the second one is that he says just like the behavior of the electrons in an atom around the nucleus is unpredictable, yani ki it can jump from one orbit to another, one state to another, right? So he says just like an electron, he too has moved from one state to another state, from the real state to an imaginary state, and he has come back to the real state, and this is unpredictable. So he applies the determination of the quantum theory to the experience undergone by Professor Gaitonde. I hope abhi tak aap puri tarah se confused nahi hue hain. Okay, So Gaitonde reveals that at the time of the accident, he was indeed thinking about this alternate theory on the Battle of Panipat. What I said, applying the catastrophe theory to the third Battle of Panipat. Okay, now I'll just explain, which I've written in the notes also. See, the professor made a transition. Listen to this very carefully. This will help you understand it better. The professor made a transition from the real world that we live in to a parallel world of imagination. You can call it parallel world, you can call it imaginary world. The first world has the history that we know of, that is the third battle of Panipat, in which the Marathas were defeated by the Afghans, right? That is the real history. But the other world, the parallel world or the imaginary world, has a different history. In that, the Marathas won and the Afghans had lost. और उसकी वजह से the history of India changes, जिसके बारे में हम book में पढ़ेंगे. I'll explain to you when we read the chapter. So while Professor Gaitonde was very much present in the present, his body has not gone anywhere. He has not died. He has not gone into another world. He is very much there on his hospital bed or wherever, but experiencing a different world. Okay. So perhaps the neurons in his brain acted as some kind of a trigger. Okay. Because at the time of collision, as I said, he was thinking of about applying the catastrophe theory to the third battle of Panipat. So like an electron jumping from one state to another, he made a jump from the real world to the imaginary world and came back. समझ में आ गया? Now this is the summary of the story. I hope you have understood to an extent. As I said, मेरे को खुद 3 दिन लगे story को पूरी तरह से समझने में. Okay, so it will take time, but this is the basic gist of the story. In the next few videos, we will go through the chapter line by line, word by word, explaining every word meaning, explaining every bit of it in detail, so that this particular chapter, which I think is the most complex chapter of your syllabus, is absolutely clear. So I'll now see you in video number 1 of the adventure, looking at the text of the chapter. Tata, bye-bye.